speaker is the leader of Britain First, and I'm really looking forward to welcoming Paul Golding to the mic.
Thank you very much, everyone, for this warm welcome. Both me and Jada are thrilled to be over here. You probably see my online reports of I was over on the 12th of July. This sound system's annoying. I was over on the 12th of July. I pretty much come every year. It might surprise you to know that Britain First was conceived and launched in Northern Ireland. I remember being in an office with 2 other people in Dundonald, near Stormont. And there was 3 of us sat around a table, and we looked around at the political scene, the political landscape, and there was nothing in this country with any backbone that would stand up for our people. We resolved right then that we would launch a movement, you know, and carry out a 30-year struggle to save our country. It's going to be a long, hard road. You know, we might not survive this struggle. England is going to descend into civil war. There's going to be bloodshed. You've seen the template for this kind of thing over in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. That is going to come to the mainland, except it's going to be far more vicious and bloodthirsty. But myself and Jada and the rest of our movement, we started off with 3 people, and now we number millions around the world. And I can tell you now, we will not stop. No matter how many times they shoot us, stab us, throw cans at us, no matter how many times they try at the police arrest us, throw me in prison. I spent the entire Christmas period in prison for confronting a hate preacher in Cardiff who said it was okay for Muslims to keep sex slaves. They threw me in prison because I burst in the mosque to confront him. Well, I can tell you now, they can throw me in prison, they can shoot me, they can bomb me, they can blow me limbs off, but I will not stop until this country has been restored to its former glory. This country is our inheritance from our ancestors. Hands up, how many people here have got parents and grandparents who fought for this country in wars? Get your hands up. Every single one of our families has bled. Their blood is in the mud and the dirt on battlefields on every continent of the world. They're at the bottom of the Atlantic and every sea and every ocean of the world. It was our people, millions of our people who fought and died. They charged up the beaches of Normandy. They fought in the Spitfires and the Hurricanes. For what reason? To hand down this country to you, their children and grandchildren. There's an unbroken chain of life that stretches back thousands of years of our people, the indigenous people of these islands. And I will be damned if the corrupt politicians and the establishment think that they can replace us in our own homeland, that they can treat us like second-class citizens. Britain First is not an ordinary political movement. We're a declaration of war against every corrupt politician. As Jada said, we're now registered as a formal political party in Northern Ireland. The problem over here, I understand, is in its infancy regarding Islam, but you can see from the mainland what is going to happen. Because 50 years ago, there was only a small percentage of Muslims in our country. There was a very handful of mosques. Now look at it. I've been up and down England, Scotland and Wales, and I can tell you now, some areas in our country, some towns, Luton, East London, Blackburn, Bradford, they are no longer British. They resemble the Third World. They resemble the Middle East. They are lost to our country. The politicians are deliberately replacing us in our own country. It's an act of genocide. I see it over in Northern Ireland. They're suppressing our culture, our traditions, just a little bit at a time. A little bit here, a little bit there. We have nothing left by the end of this process. It's time to grow a backbone and fight for our country, just like our ancestors did. One thing that absolutely sickened me, because I was over in Northern Ireland at the time, I lived in Northern Ireland for a whole year before I moved back to the mainland. Britain First was conceived and launched over here. We based Britain First, our approach, our logo, our crest. Where are they? Look at this, look. Does this look familiar? We based our entire movement on Ulster Loyalism and Ulster Unionism. Britain First was always back the Unionist, the PUL people of Northern Ireland. We will never surrender, and we will never bow down to these corrupt politicians. It made me sick the day they took that flag down from City Hall. And now I see it there, an empty flagpole. That is a symbol, rubbing it in our faces, of our oppression in our own country. We can't even fly our bloody flag over our own town hall. This is just the beginning. Don't think this is going to get easier. Don't think it's going to get better. It's going to get a lot worse. It's going to get so bad, eventually, that the British people are going to have to get up off their lazy backsides and do something. At the moment, it's quite possible for people to watch X Factor on a Saturday night, to go down the pub. Most people are employed. Everyone can most feed their families. But I can tell you now, over the next 10 to 15 years, there's going to be fundamental changes in this country. Our country is going down the toilet. How many of you have been over to London? How many of you have been over to the mainland and you've seen these areas like Birmingham and Nottingham and Bradford? How many people have seen what these towns have become? Now I remember a brave Christian spoke out about this over here. Now, before that, I used to go to a church when I lived over here in northern Belfast. In White Rock, I believe. Something like that. Whitewell, that's it. Used to go to Whitewell Church. And I didn't think anything of it at the time. And the preacher there, the minister, was making his sermons and all that. And then 6 months, a year later, he calls Islam satanic, and the establishment come down on him like a ton of bricks. Well, I can tell you now, that man is a good man, a good Christian, and he's telling the truth. Pastor McConnell is a good man, and he was a brave man. He didn't back down, did he? He stuck to his guns like a true Christian should. You tell the truth, to hell with the consequences. But look at the way your establishment came down on him like a ton of bricks. Now the reason he came out and said that is because the Imam, the Muslim leader at the Belfast Islamic Centre, came out and said that life under ISIS in Mosul was great. That's the leader of the Muslims in Northern Ireland. Now I was shocked to my core when I was in Newton Ards and someone told me there was a mosque there. I didn't believe them. So they told me where it was and I went round there. And I did a bit of filming outside this building that's a mosque. In Newton Ards of all places, for God's sake. No one really knows what's creeping in Ulster. Even people I spoke to were shocked. They didn't even realise there was a mosque in Newton Ards. And when I was outside filming, a people carrier full of young Muslims with tank tops on all jumped out and said, "What are you doing outside our mosque?" This was in Newton Ards. This is colonisation and Islamisation by the back door. Believe me, it's going to get a lot worse. And what makes me sick is that your defenders, your supposed defenders, people like the DUP and the UUP and all these establishment so-called unionist politicians who are filling their boots and feeding at the trough here and elsewhere at Stormont, they have not got your back, okay? Britain First is registered in Northern Ireland because we're going to start standing in elections. We're going to put forward people who don't care about career, who don't care about money. They only care about their inheritance from their ancestors, okay? That's all that matters, that we hand down a Northern Ireland that is still British to future generations of our people. And unless you make a stand now, when the odds are in your favour, you will regret it later.
I promise you, you will. Yes. You will regret it.
Britain First was never intended to be a normal political party. We're a front line, we're a declaration of war against the establishment, against everyone who raises their hand against our country. They will feel the wrath of Britain First.
Yes.
We're a front line for our people. Now we've all seen during the Troubles that this country suffered at the hands of Republican terrorists. Britain suffered at the hands of Republican terrorists. That threat has largely dissipated and been replaced by a new threat. The whole of Europe, the whole of the West is facing a new threat to its survival. Now we haven't got a problem with Jewish groups blowing up and running down and stabbing and shooting people around the West, have we? We haven't got a problem with Sikhs or Hindus. We've got a problem with one religion and one religion only, and that is Islam. The common denominator in all of this is the religion of Islam. And the most talked about concept in the Quran, as was said earlier, is jihad against non-Muslims. If you don't believe me, there's a Waterstones around the corner. Go and buy yourself a Quran and read it. Okay? It's all there in black and white. Why do you think these lunatics are around the world? Do you remember the Brussels airport attack? Do you remember the Nice, where they mowed everyone? 84 people got killed by a lorry in Nice. Do you remember all the massacres in Paris? Do you remember the Berlin Christmas attack? I'm losing track. Do you remember the Munich shooting at the mall? Do you remember the Orlando nightclub attack? Do you remember when the Canadian Parliament was attacked? Do you remember the siege in the cafe in Sydney? This is all a common denominator, and it's going to get worse, because thanks to low birth rates amongst our people are shrinking in number. The birth rates amongst the Islamic community in the mainland is like 7 or 8 children per female. It's enormous. They're quadrupling in size every 20 years, and it's going to get worse and worse. You think we've got it bad at the moment? This is the calm before the storm. It's going to get much, much worse. The amount of attacks, the amount of grooming scandals, FGM, halal slaughter, all these problems, terrorists, extremists, the mosques all over the country, new mosque applications, they're popping up absolutely everywhere. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And I can tell you now, they've already got a foothold here in Northern Ireland. I've seen it with my own eyes. When I burst into the Islamic centre of Belfast to confront that vile excuse for a human being who said life is good under ISIS, when I went in there, I could see that this was just the beginning. When I was outside Newtonard's mosque and a big mob of them came over to me and said, what are you doing outside our mosque? This is happening already on your streets. Okay? And if you think the politicians in Stormont and this building behind me are going to defend you, are going to protect you, have got your best interests at heart, you're grossly mistaken. Because they're already gone native in the establishment, they're corrupt. All they care about is money and career. Okay? You can tell by the danger that people like me and Jada put ourselves in. We care little for ourselves. We exist purely to fight for our country. We've dedicated our lives to this movement, and millions of people all around the world and in Britain are following us now. This is just the beginning. I can tell you now, one day we will take our country back. One day the boot will be on the other foot. One day we will have the upper hand. And I can tell you now, down to small things like that flag going back up, down to things like no terrorists in government, you don't bomb and shoot your way to power, the honour of our country and our ancestors will be restored. We will not bend over backwards to appease Republicans or Islamists. Their feet will not touch the ground. We will use the power of Great Britain to make our people safe, to put our own people first in our own country. That is the ultimate goal of our movement, and that's why we chose the name Britain First, because that is exactly what we stand for. At the moment, England is weak. Our people are asleep. Our young folk do not know what's going on. They've come through an education system that's brainwashed them, denied them their own history and their own heritage. Okay? But I can tell you now, we will restore our country. We will put our own people first. We will sort our borders out. We will grab this country by the scruff of the neck and rebuild it. And our ancestors smiling down on us from heaven will be proud of this generation. Britain First was conceived in Northern Ireland. And this is where I imagine in a few years, when it becomes so dangerous on the mainland, that me and Jada, we will be operating and living from Northern Ireland. Because this is the last bastion of Britishness still left within the British Isles. I brought some of my security with me over on the 12th, and they could not believe it. Their eyes were popping out of their heads. You know, and I took her, where's Paul gone? I took Paul, he's an Orangeman and he's never been to Northern Ireland. I took him on a tour yesterday. We was at the bottom of the Crumlin Road, and I came out to the roundabout. I said, if you turn right here, it's Republican. If you turn left, we're into the Shankill estate, Loyalist. And we turned left, And all it, straight away, bunting, flags, and it was amazing. How did that make you feel, Paul? This is the last bastion of Britishness left. And I can tell you now, Britain First stands 100% behind the PUL community in Northern Ireland. You're our people and we are your people. For Queen and country, we will take our country back. We will make our ancestors proud. We will build a future for our children unlike they can ever dream. And it all starts today. Yes. Are you behind us? Are you with us? Yes. Enough of corrupt unionist politicians. Enough of the Republicans riding roughshod over our culture and our traditions. We have had enough. Britain First has come to Northern Ireland and we're here to stay. And I can tell you now, we will give, just like Jada said, we will give all these corrupt politicians a real rough time. You've probably seen Britain First running around the streets of England on every, street corner, absolutely going to town on Islamic extremists. We created so much trouble in London for all the Islamists, people like Anjem Chowdhury, Abu Izzadeen, all the terrorists, all the people who radicalised the killers in Lee Rigby. We chased them off the streets of London. And if we have to come here and chase the corrupt politicians in City Hall and Stormont off the streets, then we bloody will, because we love our country. Britain First, fighting back!
Britain First, fighting back!
I hope that you'll get behind our movement here in Northern Ireland, and we're going to be spending a hell of a lot of time over here, because like I said, this is the only place, if you're a patriotic British, and you love your country, this is the only place that you can come. And I know every single one of you are either in the Orange Order, or you're in a Loyalist flute band, or you're some way connected to the cause, and this is what we want to bring to England. That's why all those years ago when we launched Britain First, we did it from Northern Ireland and we copied the way you guys do it. And it's worked because we've got millions of people behind us now, all over Great Britain. The struggle is just beginning. We don't know how it's going to end. But all I can say is, in a few decades, you need to be able to look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and think, I did my duty for my country. I did what is right, not what was convenient. I can hold my head up high. We don't know how this is going to end. But we can choose, as proud British patriots, to fight with our last dying breath and every drop of blood in our body for Queen and country, for Gordon Ulster. No surrender!